welcome to what's my first video. And I thought, what better way to start than to talk about something I love, and that is dolls. So sit back, relax, grab a friend, and let's get started. Joining me today is Tiger Lily, and she is from an antique shop, and she's not necessarily haunted, but she does fall down quite a lot. Which either could be her instability or perhaps something a bit more spookier. We're just gonna perch her just up there so she can enjoy. Dolls. Some people love them, some people hate them, some people collect them, and some people possess them. With their staring glassy eyes and porcelain faces, it's easy to see why so many people would find them quite creepy. And there's actually a name for phobias of dolls, which is pediophobia, and it actually is classed under the sort of similar thing as a fear of humanoid features, which is automatonophobia. Human brains are designed to read human faces and emotion and detect any threats from that in order to keep us safe. So with something that looks similar to how we look but definitely isn't human, then the natural reaction is to be creeped out. However, besides from just looking creepy, there are some dolls that you should definitely be scared of. Here are my top 3 haunted dolls. Robert the doll. A unique doll standing at 3 foot, Robert the doll is said to have been made in the image of his owner, Robert Eugene Otto. Now, the toy was gifted to Robert as a boy when he was around 4 years old, and it was actually given to him by a servant of the house who was just about to be fired actually, and then before she left, the servant gave Robert this doll. And that in itself isn't too creepy, but the strange thing is that apparently the servant would practice voodoo and witchcraft, so many believe that this has some basis in causing everything that happened and what still continues to happen to this day. Robert decided to name the doll Robert, but the thing is that after he did, he insisted on being called Jean. The two were completely inseparable. The Otto family said Robert put so well. Eugene, this is going to get confusing. So the doll we're going to call Robert, and we're going to call the boy Eugene from now on. So the Otto family said that Eugene put so much emotional energy into this doll, which isn't too different from many kids how they act towards their dolls, but they said it seemed really intense and many strange things would happen around Robert. He would move places in the house. Anytime something bad happened, Eugene would blame Robert. He would say, Robert did it. The Otto family would also find Eugene's other toys and dolls, for lack of a better word, mutilated and broken, and again Eugene insisted Robert did it. As he got older, Eugene became a prominent artist, and he actually designed a museum that Robert would later be housed in, and his house itself would be known as the artist's house. Even as Eugene got older, he was still very much attached to Robert, and actually his wife insisted that he put Robert up into the attic because he just seemed a little too attached. And even in the attic, this paranormal activity continued. People would hear footsteps in the attic, like someone's running around. They would hear talking, giggling. Sadly, in 1974, Eugene passed away, and Robert remained in the attic, and it was the next owner of the house, Myrtle, who then discovered Robert and decided to take care of him herself. When people visited the house, they would comment that it seemed like Robert didn't want them there, and in fact, they would even go as far to say that his facial expression would change and he would have a look of disdain, especially if anyone talked bad about him. And then afterwards, once people left, horrible things would happen, like car accidents or unexplained pain or illness. In fact, one visitor, Malcolm Ross, a reporter, said of Robert, "When we walked through the door, the look on his face was like a little boy being punished. It was as if he was asking himself, 'Who are these people in my room, and what are they going to do to me?' There was some kind of intelligence there. The doll was listening to us." That seems pretty creepy, and in fact the continuous thing about Robert the doll seems to be how sort of human he seems. In 1994, Myrtle donated Robert the doll to the Fort East Martello Museum in Key West, Florida. She passed him on to them, saying that he was extremely haunted and to be careful. But at the time, the museum staff didn't really seem that bothered by it. But soon after, it was pretty clear that the energy in the museum had completely changed since Robert had moved in there. Word spread of Robert the doll's new home, and soon enough the museum would put him on display for people to see. And this is just where even more crazy activity started. Museums' cameras and other people's electronic devices, their phones, their tablets, everything seemed to not work when it got nearer to Robert the doll. And then once they backed away from him, it would start working again. As well as this, the museum still to this day receives regular apology letters from people who have visited the museum and seen Robert the doll for themselves. All the letters would be asking for Robert the doll's forgiveness, as it seemed like if they said anything horrible or disrespectful in his presence, that bad things would happen to them after they left. Again, like unexplained illnesses, bad fortune, car accidents, that sort of thing. So they would send these letters to beg Robert for his forgiveness and to forgive their foolishness. And it got so bad that actually the museum now say to people to be respectful of Robert the doll in his presence, and they actually encourage people to introduce themselves to Robert so they don't seem rude to him. So, what are the theories of Robert the doll? One theory is that Eugene put so much emotional energy into him that the doll, in a way, sort of became real, or perhaps a little part of Eugene is in Robert the doll, which is perhaps why he seems so lifelike. Alternatively, is something possessing Robert the doll? Is it a human spirit, or maybe even an inhuman one? And potentially, what is the link between this and the servant who gave it to him? Is he haunted because of some sort of witchy or voodoo ritual? Guess we'll never know, but if you do go to visit Robert the doll, remember to be polite and just, mind your manners, okay?